Thank you, Nuno. What an honor to all open this Healthy Masters 2020. I wish we were in person. Last year in 2019, we were here and I spoke on pluripotent stem cells. This year, my dear colleague and chief scientist will speak and take you much deeper into that science. She is the best expert on that topic. So today, I will take us on a different journey, something very relevant to these times. I would love to take you on a journey, a philosophical journey, a scientific journey, a poetic journey along the spectrum of the immune system. We're going to be deconstructing the immune self. Now, this topic is critical for these times. It's very important that in these times we become thoughtful, critical thinkers, really look at our paradigms that we come from, and expand our minds and our strategies to support the immune system of every human being and sentient being on this planet. So we will be talking about the immune self, deconstructing the immune self, as good post-humans, transhumans should do on a daily basis. Okay, let's dive in. Next. I will be taking you on the I'll be taking you on a continuum along from dualism to non-dualism, and any endeavor in science or philosophy should have this spectrum always in mind. Next. This spectrum travels from a philosophical stance of division to non-division and unity. Dualism is about the self versus non-self, and post-dualism and ultimately non-dualism would be about the absent self. The self is no longer relevant. At this stage of the game, we are speaking about homeostasis, unity, and the infinite. And so this is very relevant to understanding of the immune system, and you'll see how. Next. At this point, I'd love to share with you a video I made for the Humanity Plus conference this year. And it's 1 minute video on a journey along this spectrum. I created this as an art piece. If you're able to run that, that would be great at this time.
From its inception, immunology has been concerned with biological identity, the self pitted against the non-self. As science moves into its post-reductionist, post-dual era, boundaries of immune selfhood are dissolving. Immune identity is going fluid. The biological self expanded, a complex eukaryotic consortium and eco-relationships advocating equilibrium. For biophysics, immune intention is not protection, it's resonance. Perhaps immunity has no agency. It's a perception, a cognition, an absent self, life, upholding unity.
Thank you. Next. Wonderful. So along the spectrum, we have division to unity, the self versus non-self, towards more symbiotic theories, more towards the quantum biophysical theories of immunity. And that's what this video tried to elucidate artfully to give us the experience of where we're going. Okay, next. Along the spectrum, we have different theories of the immune system, of immune functioning of the human, and essentially you could say of every mammalian species. We have the germ theory, which we're very familiar with, and we all grew up with, biology 101, immunology 101, germ theory. Then we've got terrain theory, and this is more of the functional medicine approaches. And then we're going into more symbiotic theories, more eco-immunological theories of the Holobion, and we will finish with the quantum immunology. So let's dive in. Next. Germ theory. We all know this very well. I don't need to spell it out, but let's just look at a couple of the details of this theory. Next. Messieurs, c'est les microbes qui auront le dernier mot. Pasteur was the founder. Oh, the sun is coming out here in Cabo. And of course, he had a colleague, Robert Koch, and pure culture is the foundation for all research of infectious disease. So from this theory, we know this well. Microorganisms are the primary causal disease agent, and they're essentially to be guarded against. And we see this these days very clearly. Emphasis on prevention and killing of germs. This is a paradigm, and I want you to really look at the languaging that this paradigm uses. Next. We've got languaging around the the self versus non-self, the battle, the neutralization of the germs, the combating, the fight, the destroying, isolating, protecting against. You see this in this language of this paradigm all the time. The germs are essentially considered pathogenic, nauseous, virulent, and we've got this whole experience of the pandemic at this time, epidemics, plagues, and so on. So this languaging uses the self versus non-self. There's a static biological self, and it's against the other. There's a boundaried immune self, and this is strict dualism. And please, I want you to pay attention to that because it's in our language around our health all the time. Next. And of course, the solutions are cytal, microbial, viral, prion, microbes are to be eradicated. So pharmaceuticals use antibiotics, antivirals, antiprions. Even in botanical medicine, you'll see bioactive molecules, minerals, phytochemical constituents as being called antibiotic, herbs, antiviral, so on. That languaging is still the germ theory dualistic, Physics, we've got frequency, sound, light, magnetism, eradicating the non-self. And chemical, we've got the antiseptics, disinfectants, and germicides. This is 2020 experience, Next. Now let's move more into the germ terrain theory, and this is where functional medicine comes more into play. They start to pay attention to the terrain, the body, and the wellness of the body. Next. And this comes from Claude Bernard and Béchamp. The microbe is nothing, the terrain is everything. Primary cause of disease is in us, always in us. And these scientists and physicians that came up with the terrain theory are still existing now, of course, and more functional medicine is based on this perspective. Disease is ill health. To prevent disease, we have to create health. Microorganisms become pathogenic as the health of the host organism deteriorates. So it's always the condition of the host organism that is the primary causal agent from this paradigm perspective. Now we're still in a dualism because the terrain is still the self and germs are the other. And we are trying to find a way to improve the terrain of the self so that the germs that live with us are the correct ones, you could say. Next. Again, cells, tissues, and organs. There's an immunome and a genome and epigenomes, and biogenetic medicine also fits into this place. If it's focusing on the terrain, on the immunome, the physiological body. Next. So health here is a healthy set point. It's balance, it's homeostasis, it's bioregulation. So you will see therapies and medical strategies that help to reset bioregulation in the body and the buffering capacity of the body and rendering the body anti-fragile. It still considers the germs as antagonistic at some points. That's why it's still in the left side of the spectrum. a little bit around dualism still, but we're getting a little bit, the sense of self, the boundaries of the sense of self are expanding here. Okay, next. And now we move into the Holobion theory. And this is really very beautiful theory. And I want you to start listening to this languaging as the medical understanding of the microbiome and our sense of self, biological self, starts expanding. This disruption is coming. It's inevitable. And it's going to be very disorienting because it will challenge your sense of identity, biological identity. And I want you to be brave in this because once you move beyond trying to protect your own self and identity, you will find an incredible amount of resonance with life around you. It's very freeing. So holobiont, what is a holobiont? Next. Holobiont is whole, entire, complete. Biont is unit of living matter organism. So these perspectives talk about macroimmunity, ecoimmunology, immunity in its full ecological context. Next. So this is coming from study, philosophical papers out of Stanford and so on, around really expanding the immune identity, biological identity. The organism moves from an autonomous entity, you, to a complex consortium, a holobiont of multicellular eukaryote plus its colonies of persistent symbionts. So essentially, your biological identity is not just you, your immunome, your genetics. It's you plus the microbial genetics. Human is one species and it's got 20,000 genes coding for over 200,000 proteins in the body. But inside your body, there's 40,000 species of bacteria that have 2 million genes. Not that alone, parasites. There is over 300,000 species of parasites cohabiting with you. They have 2 billion genes. You have 20,000, they have 2 billion. I mean, this is astounding. How are we not studying this? Of course, there is a lot of study around this, but this should be front page news. 5 million species of fungi, 125 trillion genes. This is the next disruption in human biology and medicine. So now we're at the Holobion theory. So this is about system, network biology, ecobiology, sociobiology. Now we have totally a dissolution of boundaries. There is no longer that classic sense of biological self in these perspectives. It's a dynamic biological, ecological identity. So your immune system is essentially expanded to your environment, to what you eat, to the pollution in your area, to a destruction of the soil that's directly related to your immune system. If you spray the soil with a lot of pesticides, that's going to be toxic to you almost immediately through horizontal gene transfer that happens through virome updates. Yeah. So this is a dialectical exchange with the environment. These are the eco-relationships advocating equilibrium. And the physician that's really well-versed in this area these days, he creates a lot of content around really having us rethink the virome, is Dr. Zach Bush. Please feel free to look him up. Health is symbiosis. We are moving from illness to wellness. Next. And let's finish up with the quantum immunology. And this is, an area that's really fascinating to me, frequency medicine, biophysics, how we can use these strategies to reestablish immune tolerance, to reestablish resonance with our environment and with the microbiome. Next. So quantum Quantum theory, quantum is the smallest unit of physical reality. We're going deep down into subatomic levels here. Radiant energy, unit of vibration, unit of action. So here we're talking about bio-oscillation, vibration, and frequency. Now, you know, if we step back, we are highly ordered, coherent, resonating systems. And this can be measured, and this can be treated with transformative biotechnologies. Had we really focused on the work of Nikola Tesla or listened to Mr. Filler, we would be using these therapies a lot more than we do the pharmaceutical models, electromagnetic energy, the Hertzian energy, electric scalar, Tesla's strategies, magnetic scalar energy, Konstantin Mile. This, you know, these approaches are very intelligent. Next. Quantum theory, all biological processes make the use of these features, quantum mechanics, such as quantum coherence, superposition, tunneling, entanglement, to convert energy into form. How does form happen? How does your body happen, given that 99.999% of your body is empty space? And that's fascinating. I mean, if we had been concentrating on this area of biology and medicine, we would be using very different strategy than what's out there right now. And the human body is a collection of empty spaces on an empty planet in an empty universe. And this should be daily news, yeah? Let's really kind of think about it for a moment. 30 to 40 trillions of cells, 100,000 to 100 trillion atoms spinning coherently every second of your existence, and trillions of protons and electrons. There's a structure to this space, this empty space that makes up the atom. It's dynamic, it's granular, it's filled with many black holes called planks, and these planks are oscillating non-stop. So what we call matter, your body, is a consequence of the interaction of the electrostatic fields, the scalar fields generated by this dynamic space. At the core, this is who you are. All of physical reality is a result of the structure resulting from quantum vacuum fluctuations, from the structure of the spin. So this is really relevant to immunology. There's an information encoding feedback process in this, you know, this space memory network, this micro wormhole network, as they call it. I mean, this language is not, you don't hear this every day in medicine, but it should be by now. It's 2020. We should not be talking about, you know, germ theory as much anymore. That's outdated in some way. We should be speaking about this. Next. Quantum immunology, essentially, at this level, you know, at the subatomic level, this is a cognition happening, an information exchange energetically, and there's an exchange where is the antigen benign or immunogenic? It's reading that moment, yeah? And that moment is Planck second, yeah? Is there resonance or not? Resonance is at the core here. The information encoding feedback process is always listening for resonance or not. Is there resonance? And this is the Japanese symbol for resonance. And in Japanese, there is an expression called kiga ao. Kiga ao means meeting. Does the chi meet? Or kiga awanai? Does the chi not meet? Yeah. So is there resonance or is there dissonance? And that's very beautiful because they use that to see if we get along. You know, kiga ao, we get along. We got chemistry, and kiga awanai means we don't. You know, our chis don't meet. We don't got energy. We don't got chemistry. It's very much around this whole languaging of energy and how that actually creates reality. There is a paper called The Dawn of Quantum Immunology, and it really looks at the T-cell receptor to peptide major histocompatibility complex interaction. And really, it has shown that the atomic structure of the peptide and its underlying electronic structure reflects the immunological outcome. So atomic coordination is directly correlated to peptide immunogenicity. There's a lot of information here. And if we can become versed in this science and then using biotechnologies like magnetic scalar are looking for strategies that are based in biophysics, in magnetics, is an important part of immune strategy for the human. For biophysics, immune intention is not protection. There's nothing to protect. It's resonance, it's communication. Perhaps immunity has no agency. It's a perceptive event. It's a cognition. There's an absent self. It's not personal anymore at that level, yeah? Life is simply upholding unity. From a quantum perspective, it's about unity and the infinite. From a holobiont perspective, it's about biodiversity. From a terrain perspective, it's about tolerance. And germ theory is still in the warfare model of me against the germ. And of course, I want to end with a little bit of a poetic touch to this because we must. Poetry is the true profession of the human. Touch is resonance, oscillations meeting, feeling real. So do get in touch with a lot more quantum immunology content. Start paying attention to this. This is the future of medicine. There aren't many, not two, there isn't even a one. Yes, we are talking about unity, infinity at the core of who we are. And that's good medicine. You must know this and then work backwards. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so we touched on the full spectrum immunity. We traveled from the germ theory. We expanded the immune self a touch more, including terrain, how well your body is doing, how healthy are you, how is your metabolism, detox pathways. Functional medicine is great at this area. The holobiont theory, we're expanding into biodiversity, into ecoimmunology. What happens in the rainforest in Brazil is directly related to your immune system right here. And quantum immunology, we went down to the level of those quantum wormholes, and ultimately all of this together matters. And that's what I'd love for us as future humans to always keep in mind along this spectrum. Make sure you can travel along the entire spectrum and access solutions from the whole spectrum. Don't get stuck in the germ theory. Okay, voila, that's it. So we deconstructed a touch the immune self. That's the post-human endeavor anyway. So you can find out a little more about this at blissdesign.com. I've written a couple of articles, philosophically minded around this. And you can find me in person at stemaid.com in beautiful Cabo, Baja, with STEMaid Institute. And I'm so glad that my colleague, Dr. Bridget Hanley, will be touching on what we do here at the end of the day today. So make sure you don't miss her talk. Okay, thank you so much for listening.